Good morning. Today, we're covering a major legal development in New York City, a case that's made national headlines. Luigi Mangione, a young man from Baltimore, stands accused of murdering Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. The crime, which happened last December in Manhattan, shocked the city and the country. Prosecutors initially charged Mangione not just with murder, but with terrorism, claiming the act was meant to send a message. This week, on September 16, 2025, a judge made a pivotal decision that changes the course of the case. The judge dismissed the terrorism charges, a major blow to the prosecution and a win for Mangione's defense. This ruling narrows the focus. Is this a terrible crime, or was it truly terrorism under the law? The distinction matters, especially when the difference is life in prison without parole versus a chance at release. We'll break down what happened in court, what the judge said, and what it means for Mangione's future. The story began with a high-profile killing, a swift police investigation, and a suspect whose background surprised many. Mangione, from a privileged background, was arrested and charged, and the case quickly became a national talking point. Prosecutors argued the murder was a political act, but the judge's decision forces us to look closely at the law's definitions. What separates a heinous crime from terrorism? The answer shapes the rest of this case. We'll guide you through the key details, the judge's reasoning, and the implications for everyone involved. This is a story about how the justice system works, where every word and decision can change a life. The case is still unfolding, and we're here to help you understand each step. Let's dive into who Luigi Mangione is and why this case matters. Stay with us as we unravel the legal and human drama at the heart of this story. To understand this case, we need to know Luigi Mangione. He's 27, from a wealthy Baltimore family, and an Ivy League graduate, hardly the profile most expect for a murder suspect. Before his arrest, Mangione lived a quiet, private life, unknown to the public. After the killing, details emerged. Police say he carefully planned the attack on Brian Thompson, which happened outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel. Thompson was in town for a UnitedHealthcare conference, making the crime even more public and unsettling. In court, Mangione appeared in a tan prison uniform, a stark contrast to his privileged past. About 24 supporters, mostly young women, attended the hearing, and Mangione's brief glance at them was noted by reporters. This gesture added to the mystery surrounding him. The contrast between his background and the crime is central to the story, raising questions about motive. Prosecutors claim he acted out of political or ideological anger, aiming to send a message. The defense counters that he's simply a defendant, presumed innocent, not a symbol or a terrorist. The public is left wondering, why would someone with so much to lose risk everything? The prosecution's narrative is under scrutiny, and the defense is working to dismantle it. Mangione's story is now at the center of a legal and media storm. As the trial moves forward, his motives and the truth remain elusive. The case is as much about who Mangione is as what he's accused of doing. Let's look at how the charges against him escalated and why. When District Attorney Alvin Bragg announced charges, they were severe murder plus terrorism. Prosecutors claimed Mangione's act was more than personal. It was meant to intimidate or coerce, targeting a CEO to send a message to corporate America. Under New York law, terrorism charges require proof that the crime aimed to instill fear or influence government policy. The prosecution argued the public nature of the attack, and Thompson's status made it a political statement. UnitedHealthcare, often criticized for its business practices, became part of the narrative. But terrorism is a tough charge to prove. It's not enough to show anger or protest. Intent to terrorize must be clear. Prosecutors needed to convince a jury that Mangione's goal was to frighten a broader group, not just kill one man. This high bar set the stage for the judge's recent decision. The case quickly shifted from a murder trial to a debate about the boundaries of terrorism law. The prosecution's strategy brought national attention, but also risked overreaching. The legal distinction between murder and terrorism became the central issue. As we'll see, the judge's ruling would hinge on this very point. The stakes were enormous: life without parole or a chance at eventual release. Let's examine how the judge reached his decision. The next scene covers the turning point in court. On September 16, 2025, Judge Gregory Carro delivered a game-changing ruling. In a brief but impactful hearing, he dismissed the top terrorism charges against Mangione. The judge found the evidence might support murder, but not terroristic intent. He drew a clear line. Planning and executing a killing isn't the same as trying to terrorize the public. Judge Carro stated, "The evidence shows a calculated execution, but not a motive to spread fear." This distinction stripped the case of its political overtones, refocusing it on the act itself. For the defense, it was a major victory. For prosecutors, a significant setback. The trial now centers on conventional murder charges, not terrorism. The prosecution must regroup and proceed on different legal grounds. The judge's decision redefined the stakes and the narrative. The courtroom drama shifted, and so did the public's perception. The legal battle is far from over, but the path forward is now clearer. Next, we'll break down why the terrorism charges didn't stick. To understand the judge's decision, we need to look at the legal definition of terrorism. It's not enough for a crime to be shocking. The law requires proof of intent to intimidate or coerce a population or government. Judge Carro found the prosecution's evidence too weak to show Mangione had a broader terroristic goal. The murder appeared more like a targeted assassination than an act of terrorism. Prosecutors pointed to Mangione's alleged motives and online activity, but the judge wasn't convinced. Without direct evidence, like a manifesto or threats of more attacks, the terrorism charge couldn't stand. The ruling highlights how difficult it is to prove terrorism in court. The law draws a strict line to reserve the harshest penalties for those who truly aim to destabilize society. In Mangione's case, the evidence didn't cross that line. The case now moves forward as a murder trial, not a terrorism case. With terrorism charges gone, Mangione still faces a grave accusation: second-degree murder. This charge means prosecutors must prove he intentionally killed Brian Thompson. The potential punishment is severe: 25 years to life in prison, with a chance for parole after 25 years. Originally, the terrorism charge could have meant life without parole, the harshest penalty in New York. Now, there's at least a distant possibility of release. For prosecutors, this is a setback. For the defense, a crucial win. The trial's stakes remain high, but the outcome is no longer all or nothing. The focus now is on the evidence of the killing itself. The defense will challenge every detail, while the prosecution aims to prove intent. The legal battle is intense, but the threat of a lifetime behind bars without hope is off the table. The case is still deadly serious, but the legal landscape has shifted. The next phase will test both sides' strategies. Let's look at how New York's murder laws shape this case. Understanding these laws is key to following what happens next. New York's murder laws are precise. Most intentional killings are charged as second-degree murder. First-degree murder requires special circumstances, like killing a police officer, judge, or committing murder during another felony. Murder as terrorism is another rare, serious category added after 9/11s. Prosecutors tried to fit Mangione's case into this narrow definition, but the judge disagreed. Legal experts were skeptical from the start, calling the terrorism charge a stretch. The law is designed to reserve the harshest penalties for the most extreme cases. Judge Carro's decision reflects this intent. The facts, as presented, didn't meet the strict criteria for first-degree murder or terrorism. The case now stands as a classic murder trial, not a test of anti-terror laws. This context is crucial as the trial moves forward. The state case isn't Mangione's only legal battle. He also faces federal charges, which could be even more serious. Under the principle of dual sovereignty, both state and federal courts can prosecute the same act if it breaks both sets of laws. Federal charges may involve crossing state lines or using the mail for threats. The federal system has its own rules and, crucially, the death penalty. If convicted federally, Mangione could face capital punishment, something New York State doesn't allow. This looming threat keeps the pressure on Mangione and his defense. A win in state court doesn't end his legal troubles. The federal case will likely become the main focus after the state trial. The stakes are higher than ever, with Mangione's life potentially on the line. The legal fight is far from over. The judge's decision to drop terrorism charges is a turning point. The case now centers on whether Mangione is guilty of murder, not terrorism. Both sides can focus on the evidence of the killing, not political motives. For prosecutors, it's a chance to regroup and pursue a conviction for second-degree murder. For the defense, it's a relief. The harshest state penalty is off the table. But the federal case, with its threat of the death penalty, still looms. This case is a lesson in how legal definitions shape real lives. The judge's role is to apply the law, not public opinion. The story of Luigi Mangione is far from over. The next chapters will test the justice system's ability to balance facts, definitions, and consequences. We'll continue to follow this case as it unfolds. Justice, in the end, is about details, and every detail matters.